Hello, fellow researchers. Today, I'm going to talk about some of these sacred rules that have been guiding our profession for a very long time. And I'm going to break some of those rules. We're going to talk about the Anti Research Handbook. So let's start with talking about rules. Rules have been guiding people for centuries. Think about the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments of the U.S. Constitution. Things like right to bear arms and freedom of speech. You're familiar with those. In Christianity, there are the 10 Commandments. Things like thou shalt not steal, and thou shalt not commit adultery, and thou shalt not use AI to synthesize your research transcripts. Oh, wait, is that one of the 10 Commandments? As researchers, we have some laws too. We shall create user personas to empathize with our customers and our users. Quality, viable research takes time and rigor. Or the flip side of that, what we hear from our stakeholders is research takes too long or research slows things down. Rule number 3. We have worked really hard on that research, and you damn well better believe we're going to package that in a really pretty and fancy report. And then finally, if your findings are not statistically significant, it doesn't matter. Maybe you've heard that from a stakeholder or two. I know I sure have. Now, since you know the title of this talk is Anti Research Handbook, you can imagine where I'm going to go with this today. I am a bit of an iconoclast, a bit of a rule breaker. I think of myself as a curious skeptic. And as a researcher, I bet you are a curious skeptic too. Just a guess. So that's what I'm going to go into today. I'm going to talk about breaking some of these rules that have been driving the UX research profession. But before I do that, I have one big reveal. AI is going to take over the planet by the end of the day today. I'm just kidding. I mean, hopefully. Because in this photo here, I need to make sure that my doggo Sadie is fed before the robots take over. Because, woo, trust me, you don't want to see Sadie when she is hangry. Really though, deep down, AI and technology is flipping things on its head. It feels like it's taking over so quickly, right? And we as researchers need to adjust some of the ways that we do things. And that's why I'm going to talk about the Anti Research Handbook today, because we need to break apart these laws a little bit. So let's get into these laws. Rule number 1, personas are required. So the dogma here was that teams build empathy when personas are made of ideal customers or users. Now, if you have ever seen any of my other YouTube videos, you know I have thoughts about personas. I will link a video so that you can see how I feel about personas and how I find that they are basically a waste of time and energy and resources. Oops. Looks like I let the cat out of the bag on how I feel about personas, huh? Personas have been around for a long time. Alan Cooper is credited with creating the persona. And what he was doing was trying to get software developers to stop designing for the machine and start to design for people. So back in the 1990s, he developed this idea of personas. And since then, personas have spilled into product design and marketing and all kinds of segments. So the idea was that personas helped people design solutions not for a generic user, but for a real person. But here is the problem. I know that a lot of personas, at least in my experience, are not actually being used. Sure, they're printed out, they're on the wall, they're probably right next to that motivational poster about teamwork that no one reads either. So that's the thing, right? Like I said, they're put on the wall. They're there to be a reference point when we have discussions about products or features. They're there in theory. But honestly, they're generally not brought up in those decisions or those discussions. So let me tell you a story. I was a researcher at Capital One, and my task was to create personas. And at Capital One, our customers were car buyers. So I was going to create personas for different types of car buyers. But before I did that, I wanted to ensure that what I was putting in personas was actually going to be useful to the developers and the product partners and the designers. So what I did was interview the team to find out, hey, what do you need in a persona that would actually make it useful? All right, gathered all that data. Then I did my research, weeks of interviews, days of synthesis, days of designing this really cool persona poster. And guess what happened? I think you can guess. They were completely ignored. So let me talk about how breaking this rule of personas needing to be required, how breaking this rule can help us as researchers. We can solve problems around a scenario instead of a fictitious character. I like to think of it similar to jobs to be done. Hopefully you've heard of that term. That's where a person is trying to do a thing. And I find that when we have discussions around a scenario, that thing the person is trying to do, that is way more helpful in design decisions and feature discussions. Bringing that altitude down from the personas, which are often too generic, bringing that down to the scenario level is a much more productive way to talk about solving a problem for the user. And also we should focus on behaviors of real people rather than some fictitious character. I want to let you in on a not so secret. Those personas that contain age, race, gender, income level, you know what happens with those? They often lead to stereotypes. What should we do instead of building personas? Well, I created a workshop approach called Scenario Alignment Canvas, or SAC. And I'm not going to get into that today, but I will link to a video so that you can watch what the SAC is and how it's so much better than creating personas for product teams and feature alignment and just discussions in general. So after this, go check out that video about the Scenario Alignment Canvas. And so what I like about that is it focuses on the level of detail that's really important to problem solving. It focuses on what a person is trying to do, their goals and motivations, their pain points. This is the level of detail where real solutions are born. Honestly, I think that we should just forget about personas. They take a lot of time. Now, the research that goes into personas is really valuable stuff. Don't stop doing that. But I don't think we need to have an output of a persona. They take up a lot of time and effort. And honestly, we can use our research magic in so many other better ways. I have one final thought about empathy. Empathy does not come from fictional characters like personas. Empathy comes from understanding real human behavior. Rule number 2, research slows things down. Ooh, this hurts me to hear this. Maybe it hurts you too. Let's face it, quality research doesn't get spit out in seconds. I mean, you can use ChatGPT and upload all your transcripts, but a lot of times, still, the output is a little full of hallucinations, I'm finding. So yes, research does take a little bit of time. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but it doesn't have to have this perception of research taking too long. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever done research for it only to show up after a decision has been made? I have. It hurts, right? It sucks. Teams are moving on because of the perception that research takes too long. And this phrase drives me crazy. I hate it because it doesn't have to be true. Let me tell you a story. I was working at a company that owns a bunch of animal hospitals, and I was in a product meeting, and my product owner happened to mention a mobile doctor app that was going to dev in 2 days. Well, this was the first I'd ever heard of any mobile doctor app, So I was like, oh, hey, what app is this? And he said, oh, it's just a mobile app that doctors will use to look up the pet information before they walk into the room. Oh, okay. So I asked, what's going in this app? And my PO was like, oh, the medical history, prescriptions, the pet parent address. I said, oh, how do you know that is the information a doctor needs in a mobile app? And my product owner said to me, I just know. Well, when someone says, I just know, that pretty much says to me, you don't know. So I said, oh, okay, well, maybe we should do a little bit of research to confirm that we're heading in the right direction with this mobile app. My product owner was like, no, 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 Jen, we don't have time for research. We're going to Dev in 2 days. I said, oh, yeah, okay, no problem at all. Just give me a couple of hours to call a few doctors and make sure we're all good. And he reluctantly said, okay, sure, fine. So I called some doctors and I found out some very interesting things. All of the doctors told me they only needed 2 things, just 2. They needed to know what kind of animal it was. Is it a dog? Is it a cat? Is it a fish? And they wanted to know what they were stepping into. Is this a routine vaccine visit or is it a trauma situation? The dog's been run over by a car and they just want to know that. They just want to know what they are stepping into when they walk into that room. So I asked the doctor about the other features that were going to go into this mobile app. The medical history, the prescriptions, those kinds of things. And the doctors were like, no, 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 I don't need any of that crap. I can look up that stuff on the computer when I get into the room. So, the valuable lesson here, research does not have to take a long time. The benefit of me doing this research was we could eliminate about 75% of the feature bloat that was going to go into this app. We got it done 6 weeks earlier and way under budget. I'm going to be honest, I'm quite sick of the mantra that research takes too long. Aren't you? So let's talk about how breaking this rule, this perception of research taking a long time, how if we break this rule, it helps us as researchers. First, we need to match the rigor with the risk. If the space is very unknown or our confidence is low, that is where we need to focus our research. Look, I don't know about you, but for me, I have plenty of research on my plate. I do not need more. What do you think? Do you need more research? I'm guessing no. So we need to prioritize and determine what research has the most bang for its buck. And you know what? Sometimes it can be small, little gut check efforts. Think about it this way. You are thinking about doing 10 to 20 hour-long interviews. Well, could you do maybe 3 to 5 instead? Sometimes you can. And my last point here may not be very popular, and that is to use AI in our research process, especially when it comes to summarizing and synthesizing all that data that we get. I get it. I struggle with using AI for this. Do you struggle? Let me know in a comment if you struggle with using AI for your research synthesis. I do too. But what I'm doing is I'm still getting familiar with the data. I'm still digging in and learning about what I'm seeing through the data, the aha moments and the themes, but I'm also uploading my notes and transcripts into AI to see what it gives me. Now, I think of AI kind of like an intern. It's eager, enthusiastic, fast, but sometimes it produces some crap, and you really have to double check its work. So what I'm suggesting is get familiar with the data, but also see what AI suggests and make sure that what it outputs is aligned with the message that you want to send about your research. This is the value that researchers are bringing to the table when it comes to AI. We still know what is good, what is accurate, and we still need to be part of this process instead of just letting AI do all of the work for us. So let me say one more thing and really hit this point home about the perception of research takes too long. Speed does not destroy rigor, but waiting too long destroys relevance. Rule number 3, we need to present our findings in a fancy research report. Now, I don't know about you, but where I work, the go-to method of presenting our findings is a PowerPoint presentation. Probably pretty likely for you as well. They just love a good PowerPoint, don't they, those stakeholders? Where does this come from? Well, honestly, documentation of research is important. It aligns the team around what we learned. It acts as a source of truth. And, let's face it, if we put it in a fancy report, it kind of gives it some legitimacy and some credibility, right? I mean, come on, admit it. Makes it seem more legit, right? But let's face it, that 47-page PowerPoint deck that you spent 2 weeks on, it may be falling short. Maybe it gets skimmed pretty quickly, probably gets ignored. Think about it. Have you ever put a presentation together that was at least 47 pages? Yes, I have. The one you're looking at here was at least 65 pages. We've all been there. I get it. You spend a couple of weeks, you make it look really fancy. It's so nice it could go into a museum. But then what happens? You present it to your stakeholders and they say, yeah, can you just show me the important bits? Have you ever been there? People just don't have time to read long reports. That's why I am a big fan of putting that executive summary right up front. Do you do that too? Now, I'm not talking about breaking down the methodology and then going into the executive summary. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about big rocks, big summary right at the beginning, and maybe even putting your methodology in the appendix. I know it's controversial, but honestly, your stakeholders don't really give a shit about your research methodology unless they think it's wrong. Then they care. So consider putting an executive summary right at the beginning. I want to share an example with you of where I was sharing research findings quickly with my team. So I was working at Rocket Mortgage and I was interviewing State Farm agents, insurance agents. They were using our Rocket Mortgage portal to re-originate or refinance a loan, a mortgage, on behalf of their client. So what would happen is a client would come into the State Farm agent and the State Farm agent would talk to them about their mortgage rate. And there was the opportunity that the State Farm agent could re-originate that loan for them at a smaller term. So the benefit to the State Farm agent was they got a little kickback, a little bit of money from Rocket Mortgage for originating a loan with us. What the benefit was for the insurance client was they got a lower mortgage rate and therefore their mortgage rate was smaller. So it was a win-win for both sides. So I was doing interviews to understand how these insurance agents work, what their daily life was like, how these conversations about mortgage fit in to their daily routine of working with customers. And I could have shared all of these interview synopses that I created visually, like you're seeing here. I could have shared those at the end in a report, but instead, what I did was I drip fed them every day after the interview, a quick visual summary. And the big benefit is that people got really excited about what they were learning every day from these interviews. They were invested in the research and hearing those aha moments almost in real time. It was a big win for research. And honestly, I think if I had waited to present all of these in a report at the end, it would have gotten the same enthusiasm as it did getting drip fed every single day. So this goes back to my original point, is that people don't have time for long reports. And that plays into my other rule that research takes too long and how this is hurting our perception. Because if we spend 2 weeks on a research report, that takes longer. So I want us to think of some faster, better ways that we can present research to our stakeholders. Can we show them a digital whiteboard like Mural or Muro and walk them through the findings there? I have found that people get really engaged if you're showing them through this visual presentation. Can we create a Word document? I know it's not sexy. Believe me, I know. But I will tell you, my stakeholders appreciate getting the results faster. Can we do what I did before, a visual summary like I did for those insurance agent interviews? Now, you don't have to be a fancy designer to do this. I did this in Mural and just dragged the emojis over to give it a little visual interest, but you don't have to be a fancy designer to create something like this. It's just boxes and colors. Can you drip feed interesting nuggets into your Teams channel or your Slack channel and promise to follow up with more details later? What I really like about this approach is that it gets stakeholders involved. They're learning a little bit as they go along, but they can also suggest additional follow-up questions and topics that come up during the interviews. So it shows that research can actually be a bit iterative. That is a big win for the perception of research being fast, right? So how does breaking this rule of not requiring a fancy report actually help us as researchers? Well, when we do real-time insight findings, it shows that research can be fast. Stakeholders, they follow along in this journey when you bring them along, and people who are brought along are invested and excited about what they learn. And finally, decisions happen earlier, and they're happening earlier because of you. You're not being left behind in the decision process. The data that you are bringing to the table through your research is helping inform direction. Not assumptions, not guesses, but your research data. And you know what? You have my permission to remind your stakeholders of that. So the bottom line is brevity is king. Think about it this way. What has more impact? A 47-page report or a 1-minute video showing a user struggling with your product? I think you know the answer to that. Okay. Whew. This final rule, this one about statistical significance. There are stakeholders who believe that if you don't have quantitative numbers behind something, it doesn't matter. Have you been there? Ooh, I have been there so many times. It's very, very frustrating to have somebody who is just driven by the numbers. So this can look like a stakeholder saying, you only talk to 10 people? Or they say, ooh, that's really interesting, but I would love to see the numbers to back that up. Yeah. I wonder if you have ever had a stakeholder who was all about the numbers and driving this desire for statistical significance. Have you been there? Statistical significance is the cornerstone of scientific research. It's there to show that things are not just happening by chance, but there is some scientific rigor around the results. And that's not wrong, but it's not the only thing. Let me ask you this. If there's a wrinkle in the carpet, do you need to see 10,000 people trip over that carpet to know that you need to fix it? Do you need a p-value to see there's a problem with the carpet? No. You only need to see about 3 people faceplant before somebody says, maybe we should fix that carpet, right? But companies love statistical significance. It feels safe and scientific. Those percentages feel real and authoritative. And statistical significance is a term that our stakeholders are familiar with. They learned about it in school and they know it. So this is a term they like to throw around. And I know for my qualitative researchers out here, I am preaching to the choir, but I still think that there are some tactics that we can use when we hear this statistical significance argument. Here are some things that you can try when somebody is all about the numbers. You can remind them that Quantitative data tells us what, but qualitative data tells us why. Quant numbers show averages, but we are designing for risk, not averages. So we need to make sure that we understand the nuances of the problem that we're trying to solve so that we do it right. Early stage decisions don't require certainty. They require signal. So what we want to do is have a general idea that we're heading in the right direction. And if we wait around for quant numbers to back that up, that could really delay the process. While statistical significance tells you if something is real, it's the qualitative context that tells you just how much it really matters. I love this quote. Behind every data point is a human story. Qualitative research ensures we don't forget the customer behind the chart. Let that sink in. Maybe I'll put that in my next research report. Oh, wait, we already established that nobody reads those. Let's sum up this idea of statistical significance. You don't need a large number of instances to know that something is happening. What the team needs is a connected argument to show why something is happening and why it is important. And that comes through qualitative data, because that is where real opportunity and solutions are born. So I want to end on a confession. I have broken every single one of these rules. Every one, sometimes on purpose, sometimes out of desperation. And I'll be honest with you, the work is better for it. Not because the rules are bad, but because it is a skill to know when to break the rules. And it is a skill that you're often not going to find in a handbook. My ask to you is the next time you're looking at your to-do list, the research asks that you have on your plate, ask this question of yourself. Am I doing this because it's the right thing to do? Or am I doing this because this is what researchers do? And if your answer is, this is what researchers do, then you have my permission to try something different and to finally break the rules. Hey, if you enjoyed this, give me a like, let me know. Leave me a comment down below about a rule that you have broken when it comes to research. I would love to hear from my rebels out there who are breaking the rules. Until next time, thanks so much. Bye.